So as while we're playing some songs, waiting to come back, we're watching Noodles, and he looks like
the wide shot, too.
It's a wide shot.
Like
He's driving his car.
Yeah.
Noodles, what's up, buddy? That was awesome.
So I don't know if you guys know, I have a couple Teslas, so I actually have the self-driving. So I hooked it up, and I wasn't sure if you were going to bring me in on time. I just got into my garage. I just landed from Montreal, so I am now hands-free. But I was, I placed the, I got like the driving, and it's a self-driving mode. It's called Mad Max. So it drives you like very aggressively on the highway. I was like in and out. It was driving crazy, but I was on full self-driving mode. I thought you guys were going to bring me in sooner, so I was like, okay, all hell's going to break loose. But I was listening to Hungry Eyes. I think that was, who was that, Bob Stauffer singing? I don't know who that was. But
Stauffer with Dallas Aikens mixed in. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Man, so Noodles, do you always let it self-drive it? Or do you drive it?
I do.
Wow.
I do. It is crazy. Obviously with the snow and stuff but the self-driving mode is better driving than myself and anybody else. And honestly, it's a little bit weird on like highways because it'll get aggressive. Like the other day on a paid highway here, it was driving 138 and weaving in out of traffic. But I was like, all right, let's do it here.
So is Mad Max like the level like that's your max level, and then there's like
is it like a Safe Steve or something like that? Or
yes. So there's like it's slow, I think it's called, and then the highest one is Mad Max, but you can do a hurry, you can do like a safe mode. Like Mad Max is like it's weaving in out of traffic. So I was Mad Maxing it to get home so I could make the hit because I just landed. So I'm excited. Although, I mean, I don't know how you guys are feeling. I thought it was a pretty good game. They pretty much did everything they could last night except for beat a goaltender that could have been drafted by the Oilers. That's the narrative.
He can be drafted by the Oilers?
I never heard this story before.
Oh, my God. We didn't know.
Fill us in.
I said if we were ever going to bet on the Oilers to get shut out, last night would have been the night. Like, that's just a narrative that's come full circle in that situation. We'll get to that as we work our way through this thing. But, notice you're not wrong. Like, they played really well against Seattle, come away with a shutout victory there. They put together back-to-back games where they were relatively good at limiting scoring chances, which not getting the win last night would be frustrated for the athletes, I would think. But can you build on that one if you're the Oilers going up against Seattle again tomorrow?
You certainly can, because if that's the template, you'll take that 99 out of 100 times, because I thought Walstead made some great saves, especially on the power play on Hyman there with the right pad. I look at it, you'll take that effort, you'll take that consistency. Even the goal against, people are going to listen. You allow one goal in a game, you should win. People were saying, again, it's the better goalie at the other end. I mean, Walstead was fantastic. I thought McDavid and Draisaitl had a couple good looks. It's weird because McDavid looked like he was on video game mode, but he's still bobbling a lot of pucks for me. It's really weird. I've seen him bobble more pucks and make weird decisions with the puck this year than I have in the 9 years previous. But, he's all around it. You look at it, I thought that was Henrique's. I don't know if the analytics will support it, but I thought Henrique looked all around it, which was good because I think he's kind of looked older and slower this season. So there was a lot of positives to draw from, but unfortunately you leave two big points on home ice, which you need to start making some hay on home ice here. You got 4 in a row after last night. So the template's there, but the result wasn't there.
We talked yesterday setting up the game about, making Walstead work for it, getting, traffic in front, making life a little more difficult on him. I wouldn't agree that the Oilers really matched that last night, but you played the position. He's been playing lights out. We had some names of
four shutouts past. In his last 6 games. The first time it's been done in 90 years. The last time it happened, it was Frank Brimsick, Tiny Thompson, and Dolly Dawson in 28-29.
So, elite company. But how would you go by, watching him play, what is the crack in that wall? How would you, going back, how would you, would it just be getting more pressure, and getting in his grill a lot more? Is that kind of how you crack the wall?
I think you got to get him moving and elevate because he's got great feet and he's a big goaltender.
Moves well.
So he covers the ice well. So what's happening is you get in tight, and you gotta put it under the bar. Listen, he's not gonna have. I mean, he might have a Hall of Fame career and get shutouts, every 3 games. But I would suspect hitting the ground like this and running, there is going to be a market reset with him. But he does have a skill set that looks pretty special and looks sustainable. I'm not talking about the shutouts, but I'm talking about sustainable as far as how he covers the ice, how he moves in the net, how big he is. Kind of reminded me of Jacob Markstrom, a 6'6" goaltender that has good feet. And, if you forget, Markstrom went from Florida to Vancouver, and it took him a bit to settle in. But then for a couple years in a row, he was Vancouver's MVP. Again, there is going to be a market correction on him. He is going to have a night where there's some bad bounces. I thought he had a couple favorable bounces last night, that things, bounce the right way for him instead of the wrong way. That's going to happen. But he looks like he's got the makings of a real sound number 1 goaltender. Minnesota's got 2 good goaltenders there. That Gustafson's a good player too. So good on them. But again, I saw Oiler fans getting frustrated and saying, this was a guy that was rated and was available to them, and they moved past him. I live in Toronto, and Tuukka Rask's name comes up almost daily. So, it happens, but you got to move on. And again, you hope that they can reset and have the template against Seattle, because Seattle's going to be crabby too. They're going to want redemption. So you can't just show up and think that you're going to play like you did in Seattle the other day. You got to go and work for it. So it's going to be a hard-fought 2 points tomorrow.
Lots of comments about Tuukka Rask, but no love for Justin Pogge, who was the guy that they decided to keep rolling with, right? Yeah, that was.
I know.
Pogge was a great junior goalie. I'll give him that. So just back to this Walstead thing for 1 second, because in that draft year, the Oilers were apparently trying to target Kosa, who had played here for the Oil Kings, a goaltender that was, I think, just rated behind Walstead. He ends up going earlier, and then they trade out of the Walstead pick. The narrative that's been pushed out from the team and those around the team over the last few years is that they didn't like his mental makeup, I guess, maybe some character flaws in his game, and that's why they decided to trade down and draft Xavier Bourgault. But there's also the thought process noodles of like, don't use first-round picks on goalies. Don't use first-round picks on goalies. Where do you come out on that strategy in general for young netminders?
I understand. So here is my thought process. And, even when I was in management and scouting, a lot of times you have to be patient with goaltenders. We're seeing them now. And there's so many examples of goaltenders getting good when they're 25, 26, 27, 28. The mental makeup, it's when they become physically and mentally able to handle the position. So if you draft somebody very high at 18, that's 3 contracts. How patient is a fan base or an organization going to be for 7 years when you're looking at a guy going, okay, when is he ready? 23, 24, that type of stuff. Now, Walstead is 23, I believe, correct? And, so Minnesota's had to be patient with him. He's played and it's not like he lit up the AHL this season, I believe, or last season.
Last season, he struggled down there, and he had some confidence issues. He was rattled, Right. So here's the thing I would say. I would say waste, that's the wrong word. You pick the best player available. If a goaltender is available in the first round and you think he's a first rounder, you take him. And I look at Carey Price, Marc-Andre Fleury. You look at it, there's first rounders that worked out. Now, Marc-Andre Fleury was interesting because it took him a few years to settle in Pittsburgh. His first couple years, they were in a rebuild and it was ugly. But he caught up to the team. So my philosophy is you have to be patient, but you still take the best player available. And keep in mind, if you choose in the top 5, you better hit. Yeah.
But if you're choosing 28th, those picks are a crapshoot. Think of all the late first rounders that didn't work out. I played with a lot of them, and I played against them. So, the goaltending narrative, if you think there's a stud available, and by all accounts, Walstead, when the narrative around him was this guy has all the tools, yes, if you start looking into character flaws and that type of stuff, I'm not privy to that information. But if you got somebody who has all the tools, you better take them. I'll give you an example. Nashville took Askarov at 11. They had Saros and Pecorine, and they still took a goalie at 11. The kid looks like he's going to be a star in the league. I've talked to many goaltender scouts, goaltender coaches in the league, even AGMs, because Askarov was available from Nashville. He wanted out. They weren't going to. They re-signed Saros there, and there were a lot of teams that were going to take a flyer on him. And the knock on him wasn't the skill set; it was between the ears. Now he's still growing at the NHL level. But I said to a scout, if he's available, take him, because he might grow into that position and be a superstar, where there's a lot of organizations that go, we like this goalie, we don't love him. He might be a tandem goaltender. This guy at Askarov in San Jose has an opportunity to be a number one starter. Not many of those guys are out there. It's more about tandem. Can you get a 40 games out of a guy? So that's where if you have separating skill, and you have got a first round pick, take the goaltender, because separating skill is what it's all about in today's game.
I think a similar storyline would be Chicago with Spencer Knight, right? Florida used a first round pick on him too. And he's starting to find his way, right? So
he's a fantastic goaltender. Obviously, much documented struggles.
Yep.
We know. He stepped away from the game, got some help, but he's a player. Ask people in Chicago. He's a player. They've found their goaltender. Now, if he can keep it on the rails and keep his game in line and keep his life in line, which he's talked about, they've got a special one there. And you talk about the turnarounds of these organizations. San Jose's got a goalie. Chicago's got a goalie. That's really, yes, they've got star players. Celebrini and Smith are stars in San Jose. We see what Bedard's doing, even as recent as last night. He had an unreal goal. But you need somebody to stop pucks in the net. And those organizations have turned because they've got somebody they believe in moving forward in net.
Noodles, one more quick one for you as you continue to sit in the Tesla here. We get people all the time who text in, especially after a game like last night. They had a ton of shots last night, but people be like, Knobloch has killed the offensive instincts of these guys. Are you at all concerned about the Oilers offensively?
No, but okay, I shouldn't say no, but I would like to see their players be more consistent.
Okay.
And everyone goes, McDavid and Draisaitl, but Hyman's got to find his game consistently. He's still bobbling pucks around the net. RNH is a guy that I expect more. It's weird to say this because he hasn't been with the organization much, but the loss of Roslovic is big, because Roslovic was another threat out there. He was a guy that would draw attention away from Draisaitl and open space up for him. I talked about Adam Henrique at the start. I'd like to see their bottom six chip in a lot more. Frederick, he looks like a shell of himself. I feel bad for him. He's much maligned right now, but he isn't a threat every time he's on the ice. You need guys that are a threat. Janmark gets chances, but we all know Janmark is limited offensively. I like what he brings to the table, all the details of his game, but he has to be more of a threat. So 5-on-5, am I concerned about them a little bit? I would say a little bit, and a lot of it stems from the back end. They've got to get the forwards the puck. Bouchard is an excellent outlet pass. They miss Wallman advancing the puck. The two right-shot defensemen, Regula and Emberson, don't move the puck that well. They're very limited. So what you're hoping is that Ekholm, who had, how many good looks did he have last night?
Yeah.
3?
Went
Twice
off the bar
he missed
once.
the net.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you got to hit the net. Like you're walking downtown. I know you're trying to pick a corner on a big goaltender. You got to hit the net and force him to make a save. Blasting it high and wide. How many times did we see Bouchard blasted high and wide yesterday? They've got to hit the net. Force this goaltender or these goaltenders to make saves and create some havoc and at least get the D turning and dealing with the rebound. How many times have you seen it blast off the glass because it sounds great and it's a hard shot, but it goes out and you got to regroup in the neutral zone? So to me, it stems from the back end. And my concern, I don't think this is a Knobloch thing. It's more of a player's execution thing. If you're getting your shots through and forcing the D and the goaltender to deal with it, all of a sudden you get sustained pressure in the offensive zone. So, Mangiapane had a look, pretty good save by Walstead on the blocker there. So, I look at it and I don't think it's the coach stagnant as much as the players and their execution. If they get Wallman back, you get Nurse playing within his skill set. You get Ekholm, whose game is starting to come around. I think the guy back on the back end I'm really disappointed in, and I think he's worried about a contract, is Kulak. He doesn't look very good. I think he's thinking out there and making decisions that are kind of uncharacteristic of him. He's always been the steady Eddie, and I don't think he's found his game yet consistently. So there's lots to work on there and lots to build on. So I wouldn't be that upset about things, but their game has to find some consistency. The one thing we have seen in the last 2 games is the attention to detail is a lot better there defensively, and I think that's something to build on.
2 comments before we let you go. One from Bones on the Paris Jewelers inbox on the text line says, Noodles kind of looks like a cat burglar right now. You're in the dark with like a toucan.
Okay, so here's a funny joke. I drive my kids to school every day that I'm home.
Or your Tesla
my daughter
does.
Well, my Tesla does. But I wear a ski mask. I don't know why. I'd like to mess with the kids, so I wear a balaclava. And then when I get to school, I take it off because obviously you don't want teachers and that pointing it out. But while I'm driving there, I drive with a full balaclava on. And my son loves it, who's 8. He's like, Daddy, I love it. My daughter is obviously embarrassed of her father, which is fine. But she's in that stage. But I don't look like a burglar with this toucan. No. But right inside that door here is 2 balaclavas that are black. They're unbelievable.
We need next Wednesday the balaclava.
I also got to know, do you ever just ride in the back of the Tesla?
No, because this particular one, I have a Model X. It's not there yet. In the U.S., I've flown in like last year or 2 years ago in Arizona. They have the self-driving taxis. I just get in the back and they drive me. Came and picked me up at Best Buy, took me back to my hotel. I've been in several of those self-driving vehicles. They're unbelievable. And again, they're a lot safer than somebody driving on the White Mud right now or on the Anthony Henday. I'll tell you that.
Noodles, good stuff, man. We appreciate the time. Thanks for hopping on right after the flight, and we'll catch up next week.
Thanks for having me, guys. We'll chat later.
That's Jamie McLennan, who took a self-driving car to break into his own house.
Nick in the North, Sticky Bandits.
Sticky Bandits.